In this episode of the Business of eCommerce, I talk with Alisa Meredith about using Pinterest to increase e-commerce sales. This is the Business of eCommerce, episode 150. Welcome to the Business of eCommerce, the show that helps e-commerce retailers start, launch, and grow their e-commerce business. I'm your host, Charles Plesky, and I'm here today with Alisa Meredith. Alisa is the Pinterest product specialist and marketing manager at Tailwind. She's a speaker and teacher of topics Pinterest marketing and Pinterest ads. On this interview, we go really deep into using Pinterest to generate more traffic and orders for your e-commerce business. She has a ton of insights that I didn't know about Pinterest and were super interesting. You'll see me during the interview taking a lot of notes. A lot of these topics are things that were very new to me. She gets into a lot of new things as well on how to find new topics so you can create new boards, almost like Pinterest SEO, which I didn't know was something you could do. Also, some new features like story pins she talks about, and really using Pinterest for different retailers that were very surprising on who can actually use Pinterest. She reframes it in a very different way that I think a lot of people are going to find helpful. So let's get into the show, and if you like it, leave a like, subscribe, and hopefully this helps you. Thanks. So hey, Alisa, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing good. Love the topic. We haven't talked about this actually.
Oh, good.
I think ever. I mean, right now, like, you hear Instagram all the time, Facebook, but you don't hear Pinterest coming up as much. And I think it lends itself though to certain types of products. I think are really like the Pinterest products. So first, when you say kind of Pinterest, is it Pinterest marketing, would you call it, or Pinterest? Like, how would you even describe using Pinterest?
Yeah, absolutely. Pinterest marketing. So just like Instagram marketing, Facebook marketing, any other kind of marketing, it's a different beast, but has some of the similar benefits. And this year has been, well, as you know, unusual to put it.
And to say the least, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it has been really reflected in Pinterest and the way that people are using it. So, for example, there are up to 442 million monthly active users, which is up 20% in just 6 months, which is enormous for them.
Wow.
Yeah, and the number of people buying, so the conversions on Pinterest are up 3x since the start of the year. So there's a tremendous potential for sales growth from Pinterest, and so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so you're saying the number of people buying. When you say buying, are they people buying on Pinterest, or are you tracking people that came from Pinterest and bought directly on like the shopping cart side?
Right. It's from Pinterest to your site. Yep.
Okay. So attribution. So it's up. The attribution from Pinterest is all of a sudden way up.
3x from the start of the year alone. Yeah. And we haven't even hit peak holiday season yet.
Yeah. We're recording here. This will come out a little later, but we're recording about a week before Thanksgiving. So we'll see how, when we talk in the future, we'll see how that goes once this comes out. But why do you think that is attributions 3x for the year?
Well, I mean, it's reflected in a couple of things. So it's reflected in the usership. So with 442 million monthly active users, last time I looked, which was the other day, it was 416. So just more people on it, but also people spending a lot more time on it. So the idea with Pinterest is really not as much of a social network as it is a visual discovery engine. So people go on there to figure out like how to solve for a problem or how to make their life better. It's really like kind of the introvert's network. It's not all about displaying who I am. It's about building a better me. So if you think about the situation we're in right now, where a lot of us, if we're fortunate, are working from home, helping kids do school online, just trying to stay safe and sane, which is a tremendous challenge right now. So we're looking at ways to make our homes cozier, to do more cooking at home, right? And to have projects to keep ourselves and our kids busy and reduce our stress. And all of that is really where Pinterest shines. But kind of on top of that, Pinterest is making shopping easier on Pinterest and kind of creating new ways for people to shop and to share their products on Pinterest.
Today's episode is sponsored by Drip. Drip is the world's first e-commerce CRM and a tool that I personally use for email marketing and automation. Now, if you're ever in an e-commerce store, you need to give Drip a try, and here's why. Drip offers one-click integrations for both Shopify and Magento. There's robust segmentation, personalization, and revenue dashboards to give you an overview of how your automation emails are performing. One of my favorite features of Drip is the Visual Workflow Builder. It gives you a super easy way to build out your automation rules visually and see the entire process. It lets you get started quickly, but also build very complex automation rules. It's powerful, but also easy to learn, unlike a lot of email tools that offer the same type of automation. To get a demo of Drip today, you can go head over to drip.com/BOE. That's drip.com/BOE. Now, onto the show. Yeah, I think something about 2020 as well. People aren't going out. They're not going to restaurants and bars. So it's almost like shopping has become like the new pastime.
Yes.
I found myself just scrolling on Amazon and just like, oh, top sellers. Maybe I'll just buy some, like a funny ice cube tray or something. It was like bizarre stuff. And I'm like, why am I even buying this right? This doesn't make any sense. So I think that's something people are just stuck at home. And this is just what people, and Pinterest is great, right? Because on Amazon, you can only search so long for just like random products, but Pinterest, you can just like go forever and yeah.
You can. If you don't even know what you're searching for, you can just start in the home feed and then you are down the rabbit hole and you may never come out.
Yeah, I did that one day and I started the home feed and I went down and I went somewhere all the way down to, I was going to put in the back of my bed, like old wood and make it look like this like artisan. And I was like, I got in a really weird, I don't know how I got there, but you can do that with Pinterest. So
yes, you sure can.
So then how are you actually linking that up with an e-commerce platform? Like how do you go from just like, hey, I'm looking at like, a new thing to put behind my headboard or cooking recipes to, how do you link that with, hey, we have a product and we want to sell this?
Yeah, so there are a couple different ways you can do it. One way that's really popular is to have a blog. And to create a pinnable image for your blog post, which a lot of people want that. They want the inspiration, but they also want the information. So it's not just like, don't just show me this cool thing, teach me how to do it, right? So if you can share it in that way and then of course, you link that image to the specific page so people can find what they want. That's really important. Another thing you can do is to hook up your catalog with your Pinterest account. And Pinterest will actually scrape your site every 24 hours and pull in all the updated product information. And when you do that and fulfill a couple of other requirements for your business, such as things you already probably have, like your shipping and return policy and privacy policy and all that, you can apply for verified merchant status. When you do that, you get a little check mark on your profile, which kind of is a signal to people that, hey, this is a trusted merchant. You can feel good ordering from them. But it also helps get your products, which come in from your product feed, into some really desirable spots on Pinterest where people tend to buy more. So that's a way that you can just set it up once and it keeps current because of your inventory and your product feed.
And that just scrapes your site. You don't need to actually, it doesn't matter if you're using BigCommerce or Magento or wherever. You can just point to the site and it does its thing.
Yeah, and it's if you use Shopify, it's the easiest because there's an app that's an integration. Otherwise, you should be able to use, if you have a Google Shopping feed set up, that should work. No guarantees. But yeah, that should work for you.
Okay. So in Pinterest, there is a description on the image, but it's very short, right? It's very terse. But then you can link. You would just basically have a short description and read more, or learn how to do this sort of thing. Like, here's some home ideas. Learn how to actually implement these, and that links to a blog post of the top 10 ways to do, build this new shelf in your home, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you can do that. So the parts of a pin would be the image itself, right? Which you want to go for about a 1 to 2 or a 2 to 3 ratio. Sorry. So that's like 1,000 pixels tall, wide by 1,500 pixels tall. Sorry. And then, so the other parts would be your title. So that's what you mentioned. That would be your short kind of headline that you would add to it. And that's what is visible in the feed. Then there's also your description, which can be up to 500 characters. And that can be 1 to 2 sentences, a little bit more about your product. And people are finding that's not even always visible on your pins. So it's really more about the SEO. So really count on your title doing the hard work for you. And so just tell people what they're going to get, kind of entice them to visit that link without actually saying, visit my link, because that's just not helpful at all. Another thing that's really important on your pin is to add some branding. So some subtle branding, whether it's a logo or your website URL. And text on image is important for a lot of people, not everybody. So for instance, if you have a living room, like a lifestyle photo of a living room, and you have all your products in it, you may not need to have a title on that, like a text on your image, because it's obvious what it is. And then you can even tag that. So you can, when you're creating the pin, you can tag items in that pin and then create links for those individual items too. But in other cases, like if you're linking to a blog post that teaches you maybe how to use a product that you're selling, you will want to use some very clear, concise copy, excuse me, to tell people like why should I click on this? What am I going to learn from it? So it might be like 5 ways to use your grandma's old tablecloth. It's a terrible example, but you get the idea that what they're going to see is the image, the text on the image, and your title. So give them, like, don't repeat everything in all 3 places, but give them like a concise idea of why they should click. And keywords are super important. So Pinterest is a number 3 search engine. So in terms of size and searches, there are an awful lot of searches going on there. So being really careful with your keywords and also where you save your pins. So people will sometimes ask, like, what kind of board should I have? So a board is where you're going to collect all your pins. And if you're using it for personal use, you know what I mean. But for the business world, you have to think about SEO. So the title of your board, the description of your board, everything that you save into that board all needs to be cohesive. So it all needs to be relevant, and to build a story for Pinterest, which is, this is exactly the topic of this board. So rather than having like one giant board for everything, you want to really break it out by maybe shirts and tops, and dresses, handbags, shoes, pants, outerwear, and then even by style. So like hipster style, or casual, or cocktail outfits, be very, very specific. And then think about, when you're putting pins into those boards, what keywords are you using on the text on image, on the title, and in the description that will kind of support that board itself, and tell Pinterest, all right, we're being consistent here with the way we speak about this content, so we can feel confident in how we serve up this content to your followers and to people who search.
Yeah. So that's actually interesting when I kind of said followers and people who search, because I guess even when I start thinking of Pinterest, I hear both search engine, but I hear follower at the same time. So I'm trying to figure out, is it more of like Google, where I have to do a good job optimizing my page and my look and getting people to actually come there? Or is it more of like a Twitter, where I have to get people to actually engage with our account? And if you have 10 followers that no one's watching, like no one on Twitter, right? Like if you're using hashtags, no one's searching for anything. They're not really, right? But if you have 1 million followers, people see a message.
Right.
Opposite with Google, right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
like which one, where does it fall?
It's a little bit in between. So so the way that works is, you could have 10 followers on Pinterest and still get a ton of traffic to your website from Pinterest, because those who will see your pins go way beyond just your followers. The reason why your followers are important is because Pinterest serves up your content to your followers first, with the assumption that these should be the people most engaged with your content. Right? So if your followers are then engaging with your content, Pinterest sees that as a signal. Okay, this is really good content. I deserve it more. So it's really not about, like, if I have 1 million followers, I'll get better traffic. It's more about, if I have engaged followers, my content will likely go further.
And are you trying to, is the play to get a lot of like a large set of these pages up and then just build like a library of them, right? Or is it get a larger following and then when you post a new one, it gets a quick hit, like a quick pop, right? Because on like a Facebook or a Twitter, you're trying to get that pop where you post it and all of a sudden you get 10,000 hits day one, but it just fades off. Versus, you know, SEO, Google, it might rank for the next 5 years.
Right.
Where does that fall?
It's much closer to the Google end of things. So content which is relevant and remains relevant can still surface in search years later. I still have posts that do. But it's not, and it really still is not about your followers as far as how many you have. Just making sure that what you're pinning is consistently engaging to those people who follow you. One of the cool ways to know if you're doing that is to go into your Pinterest audience insights. So it's in analytics, audience insights, and anybody can do this. You can look at all Pinterest users, and then you can look at your audience and compare them. So if I do that for Tailwind, I'll see that my audience is quite a bit more likely to be interested in education than the typical Pinterest audience. So you can get these little hints as to, okay, what kinds of things does my followership engage with? And I can see, let's see, the age range of typical Pinterest follower is a little bit older than typical. So like using these insights to tell you who am I talking to on Pinterest, what do they want to know about, can be really powerful for building that engaged audience. And of course, another question we get is, do I need to have a separate personal and business Pinterest account? Because nobody really likes switching between accounts. It's easier to do now, but it's still nobody really wants to do it. So what I've done, because I've been on Pinterest since the beginning, so I've tried everything and therefore messed up my account, because what I did was I started personal, then business, and then kind of a mix, and then business. And what happened in that process is, okay, my initial followers followed me because I was pinning about hairstyles or about home decor or about workouts. And then when I went all to business and I was writing about Pinterest ads, nobody who followed me cared at all, right? Because they had followed me because they liked what I was sharing before about hair and food and whatever. So just making sure that if you have a personal account, you want to, make it into a business account, use it for business. If you already have quite a few followers, I wouldn't. I would just open a new account and start from there. But what you can do is you can have secret boards for yourself. So that's what I do now. I still have all those boards that I had before. I just changed them to secret so that I can use them, but nobody else can see them. And they can't see what I pin to them.
Why would you want to have a secret board? Like, what does that help? Does that help with the business account to kind of just like drafts, like idea posts, or what do you do with that?
Oh, I do it just for personal things that I'm interested in. So if I want to find a new painting technique, I'll just save it to a person, like a secret board of mine. And that way I'm not accidentally attracting followers who don't care at all about my marketing content. Right? Because what I want to do is be real consistent in the content that I'm sharing so that I'm getting people who really want that content.
So be consistent. Basically, you always want to make sure if you're using your business account to actually kind of do your scrolling as well, don't do your pinning from that business account, right? Because that will show up in the feed.
Just do it to a secret board and then it won't show up. Got it. That's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Because you probably, I'm guessing from the app, can't switch back and forth very easily. I know on like a Twitter you can.
Yeah, maybe you can now, but I don't even bother because I just like it all together.
Yep. Were you saying with the boards earlier? I kind of put a note in there also to have those very specific categories. It almost sounds like you could map out the similar categories to what's on your actual site, what's on your shopping cart, and basically, right? Because if you're selling, men's ties, right? Like whatever the breakdown of that would be, you're going to have a pretty similar breakdown on the boards, I'm guessing. Does that kind of sound?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. But I do think you're going to want to branch out from there and think about, okay, what other ways can I present these products that will appeal to people? Maybe the same people, maybe different people, but definitely a different search term. So if you're doing like silk ties, that's one thing. But you might also want to have a board for like great gifts for men. And then you'd put in that board everything that was applicable to that topic.
Oh, so you put them in both. So kind of the same way you categorize in shopping cart, you'd have so two boards, but could have the same products or, sets similar products, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So an interesting thing about Pinterest, and I think especially applicable to e-commerce sellers, is that 87% of the searches on Pinterest are 97% of the searches on Pinterest are unbranded. And what that means is people are going there looking for running shoes, but they're not looking for Nike. Or even higher level than that, and more common would be they're looking for running tips. So if you can grab the attention of somebody at a higher level of just looking for that inspiration and that help to get where they want to go, then they're more likely to find you and your products. And they're also likely to be a rather cold audience, right? So it's really great to use Pinterest to kind of build your retargeting audience to advertise elsewhere or to get them on your email list. Because if they come to you not having any idea who you are, it's a little bit harder to get the sale right from that initial click. But with the traffic you can bring in from Pinterest, you can absolutely use it to build your list. And you will get some sales as well, but also build your retargeting audience.
Yeah, it sounds like a very top of the funnel play, right? Where you build it, retarget, and then just, push into the blog post. You probably wouldn't know, maybe you would know attribution, and you could say everyone that came from, redirect from Pinterest, let's send them this retargeting sequence and just follow them around on, Google and Facebook for the next year and do your thing.
Although, I mean, there definitely are sales that come directly from Pinterest, but it may not be today, right? It might be in a month.
Yep.
Because people on Pinterest plan way ahead. So this year, searches for holiday topics started taking off in April, which is, it's usually July. So it happened a lot earlier, but July is still pretty early. So it basically follows the trend you would see, like if you went to Michael's craft store and on the end caps you saw a certain holiday, you'd be like, okay, that's what I should be pinning on Pinterest right now, because that's what people are planning and are saving for.
So they're really way earlier on in the buyer journey, right? Where I know as a buyer, like if I need a coffee cup, I'm basically buying it when I like I need a place for my coffee. I'm gonna buy this coffee. Like I'm doing it very short term. Mm-hmm. But I definitely know those people that kind of think Christmas decorations, and it's like the middle of the summer, and they're like they come up with ideas like very early on. What am I make for Thanksgiving? And they're worrying about in July, and just like they come up with these ideas. It's not me, but I know a lot of people, and that sounds more like that Pinterest audience where they're really planning and thinking.
They are, yeah. And another great tool that is kind of my favorite Pinterest tool is Pinterest Trends. That's available in the US, for the UK, and for Canada. And what you can do with that is just trends.pinterest.com. And if you just enter your search term, it's going to tell you when those things are trending on Pinterest. It's also going to give you this week's top trends. So right now we've got Thanksgiving recipes, Christmas tree, Christmas, DIY Christmas decorations, Harry Styles Vogue, Go-Go Satoru, a lot of Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
And then for different niches. So if you're in the fashion industry, there are selections for you for food and drink, beauty, home, travel. But you can also do your own search. So if you're selling, like, give me an example of something somebody's selling.
So, I'm selling that monitor over there, but that's probably not on Pinterest, I'm guessing, right?
No, probably not.
So that is another question. What sort of things you should actually be looking for? I'm picturing Pinterest like home decor, right? Like new sheets for the bed, that sort of thing. Is that?
Yeah, home decor is a huge topic on Pinterest, but so is travel.
Yep.
Right, and even entertainment is very popular on Pinterest. Recipes, of course, fashion.
What are some things that are popular
beauty.
that I wouldn't wouldn't think of? Like, what are some other things where you kind of follow on Pinterest and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming?
Well, I think if you look at some of the success stories that Pinterest publishes, I've been a little surprised by the finance companies that do really well. And I shouldn't be, because if I look again at audience insights, I can see
personal
that
finance?
Yeah, personal finance
Okay.
or business finance. Yeah. So if I look at finance, yeah, the financial planning is really big, even banking and credit cards and investment. And the reason for that, it just follows along with all of Pinterest being a place to make your life better. So any way you can find to present your products or even your ideas as a way to improve someone's future, it's going to do well on Pinterest.
What would you use for an image for those? I can't even picture from sort of like just like piles of money. Like, what would you?
Yeah,
I'm thinking Pinterest, people are going there to, it's like an image search place.
Yeah, it is. So like a piggy bank or piles of money are very done, right? But what you can do instead is to paint that picture of what you're going to share with them is going to result in. So maybe it's a family on vacation or a happy retired couple, or, it's showing that result that allows people to see, okay, if I get this thing or I take on this idea or this service, then this can be my life.
Okay. I would not have seen that coming. Yeah. So it doesn't need to be visual. So like my thought going into this was like visual assets were a requirement, but it sounds like they're just a piece of it, but not even required.
Right. I mean, ultimately, if you can take your own photos, especially when thinking about e-commerce, you want to think about lifestyle photos. They tend to convert much better than just a picture of an item on a white background. You can still do those, but more likely an original photo that you've taken of an appealing lifestyle. It has to be professional quality, but it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. That's going to do a lot better than like grabbing a stock image or an image from your manufacturer and just slapping it up there. But one thing people might want to consider too is video. Pinterest is really invested in video, and they don't have to be long and they don't have to be perfect. So there's one I use in a webinar that I do, and it's a nice cover photo, and that's important, right? Because you want people to see kind of that text on image as they're scrolling through the feed. But it's just a cover photo of a homemade lava lamp. And the video is just a little boy at a kitchen table making this homemade lava lamp. And that's all it is. And any of us could do that. So even when it comes to your products, like show it in use. You can do that. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I was picturing when you're saying that, like Yeti, right? Like their coffee mugs. You're not just showing a coffee mug on a white background. It's showing some guy out fishing and like the woods, like at a campfire. Like it's very engaging and it shows you where the product will be used and not just a white background sort of thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of TikTok videos repurposed on Pinterest. Yeah.
Worlds colliding.
I know, right? So I think they can be effective because on TikTok you are telling a story. And on Pinterest, it's the same kind of thing. So I guess if I were, then I have tried it for some paintings. I think it would have done better if I had taken the time to add a cover photo, right, to give a little more context for what this is. Because in my case, anyway, I would think looking at it, you would think, oh, here's a tutorial on how to do this certain method of painting. When what I might be wanting to do as an online retailer is sell the painting, right? So you want to give that context, and the way you can do that is in your title or in text on image on a cover photo for your video.
Yeah. When you were saying earlier, so trends.pinterest.com, what's trending, but are you also using that to see, when you start and you're in the idea phase, to see what's popular, what you should even be, like the idea phase of what should I use for my titles, what should I use my descriptions? Can you search for both, or where you come up with that piece?
Yeah, so that piece would be like, let's do turkey. I'm going to see what's coming up. So, all right, we've got Turkey recipes oven. Okay. So I'm seeing, all right, obviously that peaked last year, 1st of December, week ending December. So it was Thanksgiving week. But if I wanted to compare, all right, which search term do I want to use? Do I want to use turkey recipes oven, or is there something better? So then it gives me related terms. So I've got turkey recipes Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving recipes, Thanksgiving turkey recipes, and I can select a number of them and compare and see like which has the most traffic or the most searches. So
and you're looking at so the fish you're looking year over year, 12 months ago, right?
Yeah. Okay. So the last year. So obviously things were different with COVID, but for things like this, it should be pretty consistent. So Thanksgiving recipes starting really trending mid-September. Thanksgiving recipes is the highest volume for search, but if you wanted to get more specific, like turkey recipes Thanksgiving would also be a better choice than turkey recipes oven or Thanksgiving turkey recipes. So it gives you some ideas, and then there's an easy way to like look at the other pins that come up in that search. So if I'm going to look at turkey recipes, which one was that? Turkey recipes Thanksgiving, I can look and see, wow, there's a lot of like turkey colored pins. So we have like that orangey brown color. And I'm looking to see, does anything catch my eye? Yeah, I know that what I don't want is a pin that is primarily orangey brown in color, because it looks like everything else on the page.
So you want to look different.
You want to look different. Yeah, there's one that caught my eye. It was very green. Everything in it was green.
Let's say you're going for that popular search term, right? Like turkey recipes. Is there a way to try to rank higher, right? Like who shows up first? Like how do you even know who shows up first? Or is the play to say, you know what, like I'm kind of like Google, right? Like if personal finance, like I'm not going to show up number one. Let's just give up on that. Let's go for some super long tail personal finance for, like left-handed carpenters or something just like so odd that like, you're like, I get this. I got it. And even though there's only 10 searches a month, you're like, I got this.
Right.
What are people doing there, and how do you move up the rankings?
Yeah, I think you probably want to do a mix. So when we talked about how you can save one pin to a couple different boards, you can also create a couple different images to appeal to different searchers. So I would go for both, right? So go for the big one. Why not? Like make it a beautiful image. Make sure that you're standing out in your design, and you'll be able to tell. Just look at the search and think, what would be the opposite of what everyone else is doing? And then just be really consistent with your keywords. Consistent from the page you're linking to, right? So they do look at your content on your website. So they look at the title, the description, and the body copy. So make sure
matches the pin.
Yes.
You want to kind of match the pin, right?
Okay. Yeah. You've got to match the text on your image, because they actually do read the text on your image.
Inside like a JPEG, they're going to search.
Yeah.
If there's text. Okay. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So another thing there is obviously you want people to be able to read it. So having very clear, easy to read text, not too scripty. But Pinterest also can't read super scripty fonts. So if you use a scripty font, use it for something that's not a keyword, unless you're just like, I don't care, design's my thing, then go ahead. But it is one factor. There are a lot of factors, but just keep everything consistent as much as you can from pin to page and back again. So that will help you. That will give you something of an advantage. Trying to think what else. So the engagement level of your followers is going to influence how much your content is shown. And then everybody sees something a little bit different. So they learn about you, they learn about me, they learn about what kind of content we like, and what we're most likely to engage with. And that's what they'll serve up to us.
Okay. So then page one isn't like, it's not the same way Google, like personal finance. If I search for it, if you search for it, we're both going to see similar-ish results, theoretically. This is more turkey recipes. Like me and you are going to see completely different recipes when we search on Pinterest.
Yeah, I mean, probably not completely, but different. Yeah. So if I tend to engage more with story pins or with videos, I'm going to see a lot more of that in my feed. Anytime I click on a story pin, it seems like that's all I see from then on. And then, you're probably more likely to see content from people you follow. So that's an impact. It has an impact as well. Yeah.
So this is really a blend of a search. It really elements of both a search engine and a social network. It sounds like, right? Because like search engines, we all kind of see similar-ish things, but social networks, like my Facebook feed and yours, are just different, right? Like this sounds like an odd blend of both, pretty much in almost every aspect.
It kind of is, which is why I think it's so interesting. And we haven't even talked about story pins. So Pinterest recently...
I don't know what a story pin is, so you have to...
Ah, okay. So a story pin is meant to be consumed right on Pinterest. And it consists of usually a combination of images and videos in one pin. And it's like a sequence that you follow. And there is no link from a story pin to your website. So the idea is strictly engagement. And it was very puzzling content creators came out because it's like, well, Pinterest is about traffic. That's why we use it. That's why we like it. What are they like? What are they doing? Pinterest had a creators festival a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was the co-founder talked about how they're making a change. So they want to see a change on Pinterest where people are getting to know content creators. So they even said things like, "You deserve more than a double tap," which was like a direct comment on Instagram stories, right? Yeah. So our stories never disappear. They're always here. And it's an interesting move. And I think time will tell, how people feel about that, and if that's what they want the platform to be. But that's definitely what Pinterest wants. They want pinners, like regular people, you and me, searching on Pinterest to start to connect on the platform with content creators. So that's what story pins are meant for. They're also meant as a way for people who don't have a website, don't have a blog, to tell a story directly on Pinterest. And I think that could be the more interesting angle for an e-commerce seller. If they don't want to have a blog, they can build a story pin and tell the story of their product and what that product can do for you in this multi-frame option that Pinterest is really invested in right now. So they tend to show up a lot in your search.
Yeah. Usually any of these social networks, when they want to push a feature, that just automatically ranks higher. Like if they want, and like that's how they get more engagement with a new feature. They just say, hey, we're big into story pins right now. Yeah. That's if you put up a story pin, it's gonna rank abnormally high. So just knowing what they're trying to push, I think is always kind of like secret on here's what's ranking today. Just look at just whatever they're focusing on, I should focus on, because they're gonna, everything else is gonna push down. The boards are down, the stories are up, and that seems to be like the play.
Yep, and it has been in beta for quite a while, and it is not available to everyone. I don't have them yet. A lot of people don't have them. Some people had them and they went away, which is kind of normal with beta. But if you are an online seller, especially if you set up your store and your verified merchant status, absolutely go and apply for them. You can just Google apply for Pinterest story pins, and I would give them a try for sure. Okay,
interesting. So apply for it. So you still have to, so as of right now, about Thanksgiving-ish, you still have to apply, but do they give any guidance on when it's actually coming out?
No, although I have seen that by the end of the year, people outside of the U.S. will also be able to apply. Okay. So, I don't know what that means for the rest of us who don't have it in the U.S. We'll see.
Okay. All right. That is super helpful. I think, I think if you have a media education in Pinterest, I did not know a lot of these things, especially the personal finance. That one, that was just a surprise. I love those ones where just like you wouldn't think of, and just reframe it, right? Where that it's not photos, it's like improving yourself. And I think that's a good way of people when they're thinking like, hey, I have this product and, maybe it's just, they've kind of passed by Pinterest in the past, but now they want to reevaluate and say, maybe I could have just reframed my product in a way that makes it so it's not just showing images, but it's, self-improvement. And that's a whole different way of looking at it as a platform.
Absolutely. And if you're wondering, like, is my product on there, you can absolutely just go search your keywords. Yeah. And see, because you'll see like Bank of America is advertising on there. You'll see car companies advertising on there. Yep. And when you see that money behind it, there's probably a good reason for it.
Yep. Good.
Yeah. And another thing you can do too is if people might be like, you might have traffic from Pinterest and like not know why.
So I've seen it before. You look at analytics and you're like, where is this coming from? Who? Like,
Yeah, I'm not pinning on Pinterest, but that's how a lot
yeah,
of people get into it. They're like, I'm not putting any effort into it, but I'm getting all this traffic. What would happen if I actually put some effort into it? So
yep.
if you do a search, pinterest.com/search, source, and then you do www dot your URL, you'll see what people are pinning from your site,
Oh, okay. So
which
that's,
is helpful.
I think everyone with with any sort of traffic looks and somehow they see, like, no matter who, you have some traffic from Pinterest. And I never knew how you actually find that. So pinterest.com/source, and then you put your URL and it tracks it down.
Yep. It's right this second is not working for me. So hopefully it will come back. It was the other day. So yeah.
Okay.
Just give it a try.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I will link to that, and hopefully that comes back alive. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. That was super
Okay.
helpful.
Great.
If people want to kind of see, a little bit about Tailwind real quick. If people want to see what you're working on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what I'm working on now is half a new product that we have, or a new tool that is in our suite. It's called Tailwind Create, and it is the fastest, easiest way to create gorgeous images for Pinterest. So it's specifically
Oh,
made with best practices in mind. And what you do is you grab the URL of your product or your blog post, you pop it in there, and we'll scan the page for you, pull up all your images in that page. We'll pull out the title for you, which you can obviously change, and then you can upload photos, or you can choose stock photos. Hit this little magic button, and it's going to generate thousands of pin ideas for you. Then you can select a couple that you like, tweak them a little bit, and then immediately send them to your schedule, so they'll go out to Pinterest.
that's a good one. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
that's one of the toughest things, where you're sitting there in Photoshop and you're like trying to type up a random, come up with a
Yeah.
font, and just like, yeah. So you basically point to a URL and it just comes up with how many images?
Thousands,
Okay.
thousands of images. So it's really fun, really great. And then if thousands is too many for you, which can be a lot, you can filter it by different ideas. So the type of content you have, the industry that
Yeah.
you're in, or the type of pin design that you want. We're coming out with some seasonal designs right now. It's just really fun. And people are loving it. So I encourage you to try it out. So if you go to tailwindapp.com and get a free trial, you'll be able to use that Tailwind Create as well. So just create them,
Cool.
schedule them, go.
Yeah, that's a good one. I feel like when we're even scheduling like blog posts, just like that time of looking for images, and like you write the blog post and you're like, oh, I gotta do images. And it takes, there's like this extra time at the end of,
Yeah.
that's very cool. All right. Yeah, let's,
Yeah.
we'll definitely drop a link to that in the show notes. And
Thank you.
yeah, appreciate you coming on today. Thanks. It was super helpful.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.